I stand before this esteemed House today to present a chapter for the education and skills development sector. This is a sector that is universally acknowledged as the primary engine for achieving our collective national aspirations. It is worth noting that the education sector embraces the concept of lifelong learning, positioning education not as a single phase of life, but as a continuous journey that ensures every citizen is equipped for perpetual adaptation and contribution within a dynamic global economy. Our mandate is to cultivate excellence across the entire learning spectrum, from early childhood development through primary and secondary schooling and culminating in globally competitive tertiary institutions. Guided by the principle of education for all, Botswana continues to focus on improving quality, accessibility, and inclusivity in its schools and institutions. The sector draws its true north, which is to cultivate globally competitive and innovative human capital by providing an inclusive, high-quality, and future-ready education system that empowers every Motswana for economic prosperity and lifelong success. From the Botswana Economic Transformation Program. It is anchored on 5 imperative pillars, which are: 1, enhancement of skills education to precisely align outputs with the demands of the modern labor market. Secondly, transformation of teacher education to empower our educators as 21st century knowledge facilitators. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, strengthening educational and industrial partnerships to create seamless pathways from learning to employment. Fourthly, enhancement of education physical infrastructure to ensure safe, accessible, and technologically advanced learning environments for all. And fifthly, inclusivity of marginalized communities to achieve true equity of opportunity. In driving this vision, the focus will be on increasing national assessment pass rates, access and progression, institutional quality, and youth productivity. Mr. Speaker, as we embark on the implementation of the National Development Plan 12, NDP 12, we must recognize that the success of this entire national blueprint, including our goals for economic diversification, job creation, and sustainable growth, hinges on the quality of our human capital. Let me highlight that over the next planned period, we will be committed to delivering relevant, high-quality outcomes that will prepare every learner for the demands of a rapidly evolving, technologically advanced, and globally competitive future. Before I move on, Mr. Speaker, let me point out that this sector is made up of different stakeholders that include Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education as a chair, Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Local Government and Traditional Affairs, Ministry of Labor and Home Affairs, Ministry of Communications, Knowledge and Technology, tertiary institutions, non-governmental organizations, parastatals, unions, and the private sector. Therefore, I must highlight that it was developed through concerted efforts by all mentioned above. Let me move to the review of the National Development Plan 11 and the Transitional National Development Plan 2. Mr. Speaker, the performance of our education sector during the National Development Plan 11 and the Transitional National Plan 2 period presented a mixed picture across key indicators, including enrollment, pass rates, transition rates, and youth engagement. There has been a significant achievement in primary education, which attained a near universal access, with net enrollment rates reaching approximately 96 to 98%. This strong performance, however, was not mirrored at the secondary level, where the net enrollment dropped to about 62 to 67%, and gross enrollment hovered around 70 to 72%. A critical point of concern is the transition rate from junior to senior secondary, which stood at 59.6%, clearly revealing a significant drop in student progression. Furthermore, only about 54% of learners who entered primary education continued to secondary school, a statistic that indicates profound retention challenges within our system. Mr. Speaker, moving on to learning outcomes during the planned period, we must acknowledge both our successes and the significant gaps that remain. The primary leaving school examination recorded a relatively strong average national assessment pass rate of 73.4%. Yet, this momentum sharply declined at higher levels, with the junior certificate examination recording only 36% against the ambitious 60% target for the financial year 2022-23. The results from the Botswana General Certificate of Secondary Education were even more alarming, realizing only 22% against the same 60% target. In an effort to address these profound challenges, more focus was channeled into capacitation of school leadership and management by introducing both pre-service and in-service training programs for school heads, with a view to foster a professional and empowered leadership which is capable of driving and improving our educational outcomes across the board. Mr. Speaker, during NDP 11, a high proportion of youth not in education, not in employment or training, NEET, presented a critical challenge to Botswana's development, as highlighted by approximately 41.3% of young people in this category as of the fourth quarter of 2022. This alarming figure points to fundamental systemic challenges within both our education system and the labor market, signifying limited opportunities for meaningful engagement and productive transitions after completing school. Addressing this requires immediate action to forge stronger linkages between education, skills development, and employment, ensuring that the progress made during NDP 11 in access and basic educational outcomes is not undermined by persistent gaps in retention, post-secondary transitions, and ultimately youth empowerment. Therefore, there is need to prioritize reforms that directly tackle the NEET crisis to unlock the full potential of our young population and secure a more prosperous future for Botswana. Mr. Speaker, during NDP 11, the government realized that academic streams alone could not drive our nation toward diversification. Therefore, revitalizing the status and quality of technical and vocational education and training, TVET, became paramount. This revitalization was driven by the spirit of creating viable alternatives to purely academic routes, deliberately supporting practical skill development, fostering entrepreneurship, and building adaptability among our youth, eventually closing the critical gap between our educational output and real-world market demands, thereby accelerating our national agenda for sustainable economic diversification. Let's now move to early childhood education. Mr. Speaker, on another note, the government is firmly committed to strengthening the foundations of quality education through the full implementation of a 2-year reception class program across all public schools. This initiative builds upon the success of the 1-year reception class program, which was first implemented in 2014. To ensure comprehensive access to early childhood education and enhance learner readiness, efforts are also underway to expand ECE access through private providers and civil society initiatives. The Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education has begun a critical phase of this commitment by collecting data to assess school readiness for the inclusion of the second year of pre-primary education, as recommended by the revised National Policy on Education of 1994. This additional year will be introduced strategically in schools that have available space, and where necessary, through alternative arrangements, utilizing the public-private partnership model to ensure its successful nationwide rollout. Now, major challenges during NDP 11. Mr. Speaker, despite some commendable achievements in the education sector during NDP 11, particularly in enhancing access and laying down critical foundational structures, there are challenges that continue to impede our progress. These include, but are not limited to, lack of inclusive infrastructure, which contributes to a very low representation of students with disabilities, with only 2% of them reaching higher education. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, the physical infrastructure is in a severe state of disrepair, with 75% of junior and 60% of senior secondary school facilities classified as bad. Mr. Speaker, the technical and vocational education and training institutions, which are the very engines of skilled economic growth, are currently operating with unacceptable inefficiency. These essential facilities are utilizing only 61% of their capacity, lagging behind our national target of 80%. This low utilization represents wasted potential and delayed progress towards the prosperous future we deserve. Thirdly, the education system still struggles to support learners with disabilities due to the severe resource deficiencies. There are only 16 specialized schools for students with visual or hearing impairments, and less than 5% of vocational training content is adapted to them. Fourthly, furthermore, unemployment rate for the 15 to 24 gap group is particularly high, at 38.5%, indicating a significant disconnect between the skills of the younger generation and the demands of the labor market. Fifthly, lack of internationally competitive qualifications and alternative training pathways remains a challenge as it erodes the nation's human capital. The emphasis on diploma-level qualifications over degrees in key fields limits the global mobility of Botswana professionals and weakens the country's competitiveness. Compounding this, the formal education system lacks the capacity and agility to offer specialized, industry-certified training in emerging fields, which forces employers to seek high-demand talent from abroad rather than from the local workforce. Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that the Education Act, which dates back to February 1967, is outdated and misaligned with the requirements of a modern, knowledge-based economy, hence the need for its comprehensive review. The absence of an education management information systems, EMIS, Mr. Speaker, remains a challenge as it creates critical data gaps and severely hinders the ability to make data-driven decisions regarding planning, resource allocation, and policy making. Therefore, there is an urgent need to develop this fundamental system for evidence-based governance and educational success. One of the issues of concern, Mr. Speaker, is that of unsustainable funding model for tertiary education. The government allocates approximately 2.7 billion pula annually to tertiary education. However, only about 16% of this amount is designated as recoverable loans, with the remaining majority being provided as non-recoverable grants. This imbalance places an immense and growing strain on the national budget, hindering our ability to fund other essential services and ensure the long-term viability of our education sector. Therefore, a complete redesign is urgently needed to develop a new, sustainable, and equitable system that maximizes the impact of public funds while ensuring access for all qualified students. Let me move to strategies for NDP 12. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that many of the original strategies are still relevant, a reimagined approach is necessary to ensure they effectively contribute to the growth of priority sectors in the economy. Therefore, by implementing the following strategies, the government will raise composite national pass rates from 46% in 2022 to 71% by 2023, increase tertiary gross enrollment rate in education from 22% in 2022 to 60% by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, I think even the 46% that came before this one is by 2030, not by 2023. Thank you very much. Increase institutions meeting full national quality BQA standards from 33% 2024 to 80% by 2030, and reduce the not in education, employment or training NEET rate from 41% in 2023 to 22% by 2030. Enhancing skills education. Mr. Speaker, in its commitment to enhance skills education in Botswana, the government has modernized the curriculum and assessment through the General Curriculum and Assessment Framework, GCAF, to drive the general education sector. This entails the adoption of a globally competitive, value-based and developmental education system premised on science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, STEAM. The STEAM-driven GCAF as Botswana Education Transformative Framework sets out a strategic vision to align education with the demands of the 21st century to produce a globally competitive knowledge worker. The GCAF has 5 interconnected and integrated pedagogical levels, focusing on the holistic development of learners and leveraging on STEAM education. That is early childhood education, primary education, secondary education, out of school education, and special needs education. The pedagogical driving platforms of this reform is centered on the use of digitalization, e-learning, coding and robotics, and teacher empowerment. Mr. Speaker, the streamlined integration of the STEAM-driven education transformation fosters a lifelong learning continuum that begins in the daycare centers and progresses seamlessly through early childhood learning to primary and secondary education. Child welfare is incorporated in all these pillars as a way of ensuring that every learner is protected, supported, and included through online safety, data privacy, mental health, and psychosocial support within the schools. Mr. Speaker, in alignment with Botswana Economic Transformation Program's center-based approach, center-specific human resource development plans will be created to address both current and future skills needed across the identified prioritized sectors. This effort will also involve skills profiling through the development of a national skills and competency framework, which will enable ongoing identification of the skills and competencies required. Furthermore, technical and vocational education and training, TVET, will be transformed to enhance skills development through embedding work-integrated learning into TVET curricula. The initiative will bridge the gap between theory and practice, reduce youth unemployment, and ensure a steady pipeline of skilled graduates who are work-ready and adaptable to Botswana's evolving economic sectors, including mining, tourism, manufacturing, ICT, and the green economy. This approach, Mr. Speaker, will also contribute to building stronger industry confidence in TVET as a driver of productivity and innovation. On another note, the government will modernize tertiary education training by upgrading the curriculum for diploma to degree level, aligning it with the current industry and regional standards to improve graduate outcomes. Mr. Speaker, the government has further made a commitment to reintroduce school sports and co-curricular activities in all public schools with a view to enhance social development and talent discovery. Strengthen educational and industrial partnerships. Mr. Speaker, the government will strengthen technical and vocational education and training, TVET, internships, and work placement programs as a critical pathway for enhancing youth employability and aligning skills with labor market demands. The strategy will prioritize structured partnerships between TVET institutions, industry, and government to ensure that learners gain practical, hands-on experience in real workplace settings. A coordinated national framework will be developed to standardize internship quality, improve monitoring and mentorship, and incentivize industry participation through recognition schemes and possible fiscal support. Inclusivity of marginalized communities. Mr. Speaker, promoting inclusive education requires a comprehensive approach that combines adequate resourcing, effective policy implementation, and a commitment to ensuring equal access for all learners. By so doing, Mr. Speaker, the government will create an educational system that truly supports every student, fostering an environment where diversity is celebrated and every learner has the opportunity to succeed. During NDP 12, the government will adequately resource and implement appropriate government and the government will adequately resource and implement appropriate policies to ensure vulnerable learners have equal access to quality education and opportunities. Furthermore, the government will implement an initiative aimed at giving learners that do not proceed to senior secondary school and tertiary institutions access to educational opportunities. This project will be implemented through the out-of-school education and training, that is OSET Ebiduam Project Bulabuka, to improve their academic performance for further education, as well as help them acquire technical skills they can use in the job market. Transformation of teacher education. Mr. Speaker, the world is evolving rapidly, and the 21st century curriculum demands a fundamentally new approach to teaching and learning. In that regard, the government will upgrade teacher training through transformation of the teacher training programs. During NDP 12, the government will implement a teacher continuing professional development policy framework with a view to ensure professionalization of the teaching cadre. This will also be used during the renewal of teacher licenses. In addition, a training platform that equips individuals with appropriate skills to enhance service delivery will be established. Among the training initiatives are the retooling of workers, which involves updating the skills of employees and unemployed graduates to align with current competencies. I'm moving to enhancement of education physical infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, the government is committed to overhauling the education sector physical infrastructure and transform it into a modern, safe, optimally fit for purpose and sustainable teaching and learning environment. The strategy aims to improve access, equity, inclusivity, quality and efficiency in teaching and learning in alignment with provision of 21st century skills. Let me, Mr. Speaker, also highlight that optimization and development of multidisciplinary centers of excellence will be prioritized as a strategic approach to strengthen the education, skills, and innovative ecosystem. These centers will serve as hubs for high-quality teaching, research and applied training, linking higher education institutions, technical and vocational education and training, TVET colleges, industry, and research bodies. A clustering model will be adopted to pool resources, enhance collaboration across disciplines, and drive innovation-led growth by aligning skills development with priority sectors of the economy, such as mining, agriculture, manufacturing, health, information communication, and technology, ICT, and green energy. By fostering strong industry academia partnerships, the centers of excellence will accelerate technology transfer, entrepreneurship, and employability, while also contributing to regional competitiveness and Botswana's long-term goal of becoming a knowledge-driven, diversified economy. Let me move, Mr. Speaker, to Education Information Management System, EMIS. Mr. Speaker, the government is committing to establishing a robust, integrated education management information system. Through this system, all teaching and learning functions will be put online. It will also deliver real-time data and analysis that will enhance monitoring, planning, and resource allocation, including a real-time learner management system. In addition, Mr. Speaker, manual processes will be digitized to enhance performance, implement e-learning, e-marking, and institutional data management, digitization of examination process, electronic offering and virtual interactions, as well as Botswana Learning Passport, which will promote self-paced learning. The EMI system will be linked with the National Labour Market Information System, LMIS. Let me move, Mr. Speaker, to National Labour Market Information System. The government will establish a credible and sustainable LMIS in Botswana that will provide regular, accurate, and time series data on education, training, and employment, specifically to improve accessibility and flow of labor market data and information, and reduce information asymmetry for users for improved policy formulation and planning for the supply of skills, maximizing business potential, and support employer job seeker matching. Secondly, monitor labor market trends. The LMIS will monitor key labor market indicators such as employment rates, unemployment rates, job vacancies, wage levels, and workforce demographics. This information, Mr. Speaker, will help track changes in the labor market over time and identify trends which are useful for policy implementation and intervention. Thirdly, enhance job matching. LMIS will provide job matching services by connecting job seekers with suitable job opportunities based on their skills, qualifications, and preferences. This can lead to quicker and more effective job placements. And fourthly, facilitate skills planning and development. The LMIS will identify emerging skills, needs and gaps in the labor market, enabling human resource development planning, educational and training institutions to align their programs with the demands of the job market. Let me move to the National Education Blueprint. Mr. Speaker, for easier implementation of the NDP 12, the government will review, develop, and harmonize the education, legal, and policy frameworks to align with the 21st century trends in education. This will include, among others, review of Education Act of 1967, HRDC and BQAX, development of e-education policy, technical and vocational education and training TVET policy, National Human Resource Development Strategy 2, special education and guidance policies, tertiary education financing policy, evaluation of the education and training sector strategic plan, ETSSP, the revised national policy on education, RNPE of 1994, development of TVET Act and Higher Education Act. Mr. Speaker, the government will further streamline, align, and strengthen the roles of education regulatory bodies and accreditation institutions in order to reduce duplication, enhance quality assurance, efficiency, and ensure alignment of qualifications, training, and labor needs. Mr. Speaker, during NDP 12, alternative avenues to diversity funding in the education and training sector will be explored. It is our hope that this approach will ensure sustainability and provide benefits for future generations. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the strategies outlined for NDP 12 represent a comprehensive and transformative roadmap for Botswana's education and skills ecosystem by embedding STEAM into a modern curriculum through GCAF, revamping TVET with work-integrated learning, strengthening educational and industrial partnerships, and prioritizing the inclusivity of all learners. We are building a robust system that delivers work-ready and globally competitive knowledge workers. These commitments to a modernized physical infrastructure, the integrated AMIS and LMIS, and the establishment of centers of excellence are not just about upgrading facilities or digitizing processes. They are about creating a dynamic, data-driven, and quality-assured environment. Mr. Speaker, this ambitious and concerted effort, underpinned by a renewed national education blueprint, will decisively move us towards our national targets, ensuring the sustainability of our economic diversification and guaranteeing a brighter, more skilled future for all Botswana. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for saving